Hey, thanks for tuning in. In today's Wellness Geek Hangout, we're going to be talking about how to put together snacks for success and then follow that up with a dynamic stretch that you can incorporate after a workout or after your workday, and then some stretches you can incorporate throughout your work. So, thank you so much for tuning in and enjoy. Okay, so you guys came here to learn about snacks for success, learning what snacks are going to be the most important for your body and for your genes, or maybe it's just to help you with staying full, not having those sugar cravings, whatever that might be, you're in the right place. So if you're like me, you don't really center your days around preparing snacks. And you may be someone that just likes to hurry and grab things from your pantry and just take things on the run. So this is just ways that we can simplify, make things that are pretty easy that you can take that are going to provide the best return on ingestion. So what that means is bringing you the best nutrition that are also going to be the best bang for your buck. And so these are also going to be foods that you're not going to be buying at the stores that are prepackaged, because a lot of those foods do have added ingredients that you may not be aware of, or sugars that you're not sure are actually included in that, or it's even just to reduce waste. So there are some healthy snacks available, but they're all packaged in their own little plastic or whatever they have. So this is just some ways to basically provide you the best snack as possible. Okay, so the three categories I'm going to go through are your energy boosters. So this is going to provide you with robust energy, especially around that maybe 2 or 3 p.m. time where you're wanting to grab that coffee. So these are just some ideas to give you that energy. The next one's going to be the most vitamins and minerals. So this isn't going to be the standpoint from macros like protein, fats, and carbohydrates, but even though those are important, vitamins and minerals, even though they're micronutrients, they're just as important. And so I wanted to show you which ones have been kind of studied in a way to have the most vitamins for you. And then the last section will be the anti-inflammatory. So these are going to be super important. All of us experience inflammation to some degree. So if you're dealing with stress or exercising causes inflammation, if you had an injury causes inflammation, and as well as if you're having any type of cold, sickness, or some kind of disease, you're experiencing some inflammation. So inflammation is needed to some extent, but we need to learn how to turn off that inflammation. So these foods are going to help with that. Okay, so the first section is energy boosters. So a lot of us are really wanting energy and a lot of it. So when we think of energy, energy is produced by this ATP process, and this process is complex, so I'm not going to go into that. But there are certain compounds that are really necessary for the ATP production to create energy. And the first one is CoQ10. So CoQ10 is naturally made in the body, but we do need methylation groups. So you may not know what that is, but just think B vitamins. So we need methylation groups to help transport that CoQ10 to get to that ATP production. So B vitamins are going to be super important when it comes to producing energy. The last bit that is really important for producing that ATP, so this is the last part of that cycle, is going to be carnitine. So carnitine is changing that ATP to actually produce energy for our body. So if you have ever heard of carnitine supplements like L-carnitine for post or pre-workouts, that's where this comes in hand. And so we're going to show what snacks are going to include B vitamins and also carnitine. So these are just some examples, but not necessarily all of them. But the highest source of carnitine from food sources are going to be your red meats. So jerky or salami is a great option that you can just take on the go. Of course, a lot of these you're going to get prepackaged, but there are healthier options out there. And you may also be able to make your own. I've made my own, but it can be a process. And then yogurt cups with fruit. So yogurt is also a great source of carnitine. And so I just like to incorporate different options with the yogurt instead of just having plain yogurt. A lot of people don't like plain, so fruit gives that sweetness without adding a ton of sugar, and also includes a lot of those important, they're called bioactives. So these are going to be a super robust amount of nutrients that are going to help with our genes with the inflammation response. And then the last one is tuna salad. And some people aren't a big fan of tuna, but this could be something that is super portable to make. You just can get canned tuna fish. You can make your own if you want to get your own fillet of tuna and make your own tuna salad. But these are just simple options that you can pretty much grab and go. So those are some options there. And then the next section is going to be your superfoods. So a lot of us have heard of superfoods that have been marketed with the most abundant antioxidants, or they have this great three, like, I can't remember what they call them, but they contain all these essential things that you can't get otherwise, but those are kind of a myth. So these superfoods I'm going to talk about are having the most vitamins and minerals, and this isn't something that is marketed. It's actually been something that was put together by, it's called the Genomic Kitchen. And what she did is she did a lot of research of looking at what foods had the most nutrients to help with people that were nutrient deficient. And so what she came up with were this list that had the most bang for your buck. And so these are going to be super important when you're considering wanting to get the most nourishment with the least amount of money. So the 7 superfoods that the Genomic Kitchen put together is chickpeas, flax seeds, lentils, sea vegetables, sesame seeds, whole soybeans, and sunflower seeds. So some of you may be thinking of some snacks already that's with that. My most favorite ones are chickpeas and sea vegetables. And I, of course, like to incorporate some nuts and seeds into my diet as well. But those are just my favorites, and some of you may have your own. I'd love to see what your guys's are, and I'll look at your chat after I'm done with the presentation just to see what your favorites are. Some ideas you can incorporate with chickpeas, of course, are hummus and roasted chickpeas. And I like to include either veggies as the best option with the hummus. You can also do pita chips, of course, if that's your preference. But vegetables, of course, are going to include the most health benefit for you. And some of those vegetables are actually going to contain those anti-inflammatory, and we'll get into that in a second. Another idea is granola trail mix. So you can incorporate different seeds, and I like to make my own. I just buy nuts and seeds in the bulk, and then I get some, whatever my dried fruit preferences is. Sometimes I put some chocolate chips, or maybe some coconut flakes. You know, I kind of mix it up and see what I like the best. And then the last option is edamame. So soybeans have there is that kind of like hesitation around soybeans with the estrogen, but that's not necessarily true. It's actually the processed soy that does that. So the whole form doesn't necessarily produce that abundance of estrogen that's going to mess up with your hormones. So I like to incorporate edamame into my diet, or even tempeh, but edamame is a great snack idea. And you can make them ahead of time, and they only take a couple minutes, and then you can just put them in a baggie and take them with you. So the last section is the anti-inflammatory. So these are my favorites. These are going to be so important for your body. So these are basically turning on or off genes that cause inflammation, or puts out the fire of inflammation. And so there's 3 of these that do that. So there's NRF2. So that's going to be taking out the fires of inflammation. And then there's NF-kappa B, and I'm trying to think of TNF alpha. So those are the 2 that cause inflammation. And so these are going to be helping with basically managing that inflammation response in your body. And then there's also some that are going to be stabilizing the metabolism. So that is called the SIRT1 gene. I'm not going to go too much into that right now, but this is going to help us with metabolizing like fats and proteins and carbohydrates and having that steady blood sugar. It can also be helping you with feeling full as well. So these are really critical for increasing our longevity, because a lot of chronic diseases have been linked with inflammation. So we already know that. So this is going to really be helpful for us to really live optimally, so our best selves. So this is just a list of some things that you can include with your grocery list, but these aren't all the foods that are the anti-inflammatory. If you do want the whole list, just put your email in the chat and I'll send you that list there. But some to include are apples, blueberries, bok choy, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, capers, grapes, kale, leeks, onion, radishes, turmeric, watermelon, honey, and olive oil. So the ones that are the anti-inflammatory, you can kind of look are like the apples and like the berry section. And then you have some that are in the cruciferous. So think of like the cabbage family. So Brussels sprouts and cabbage, kale. And then you have some that are more in like the allium family, so leeks, things like that. And then the ones that I wanted to point out are the ones that help with the SIRT1 gene. So those are the grapes and then the watermelon. So those are the ones that are going to help with that, basically helping with the metabolism, or helping with feeling like full. So for some examples, we talked about hummus in the other slide, but you can also incorporate it with maybe a nut butter or some other dip. My favorites are going to be carrots. So these help with the inflammation response, broccoli, and cauliflower. If you're one to be, pretty ambitious and try something else, like tomatoes are great, but tomatoes only have their benefit when they're cooked. So maybe cooked tomatoes with dip might not be your preference. And then if you're someone that likes greens and likes to dip, go for it. But I haven't really been the one to dip like greens in there. But apparently in that picture they do. And then some other ideas are some energy bites. So I included that because honey is a great source to help with that inflammation. And so you want to use local honey as much as possible. And then you can also include some other ingredients in there, maybe turmeric or ginger. I like to include ginger in my energy bites, so that's another great source of those spices that help with the inflammation response. And then lastly is green tea. So green tea can also help with just maybe you're a little bit dehydrated or just need something warm. It's also a great alternative compared to coffee. So you're getting those bioactives. And of course, my favorite is matcha because you're still having the powder in that. But of course, you don't have to have matcha. You can have any kind of green tea is fine. So I know that was quick, but at least that gives us time for Jenna to give her stretch, and then also time for some Q&A. But I am providing some one-on-one coaching if you guys are interested in just learning more about your own body and really getting in tune in how we can help you with anything that's going on. So I really specifically focus on gut health, and anyone that also has any like mental issues, like with anxiety and things like that, this can be really helpful in just really getting you to the next step in your wellness journey. You can also find me at the Gene Hacker on all different social media platforms. I'm on TikTok now. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. On LinkedIn, it's just Bronte Groom. So if you want to look me on LinkedIn, that's another option. For right now, the website is currently being built because I've been transitioning, but you can find me on healthprofs.com. And just search the Gene Hacker or look up that number there. That's also another way to look me up. Or you can email me at bronte@thegenehacker.com. Okay, so now I'm going to see, now I'm going to see what you guys' chats, if there's any questions. And there was someone else that was waiting while I was on there, so fortunately that's okay. Okay. Is tuna salad and tuna sashimi the same kind of nutrient benefits? Yes, they are the same benefits. So you'll still get the same amount whether cooked or raw. Yogurt, yeah, I'd like to choose Greek. You can also, Bulgarian is another great option. So those are the two I like. And then example of sea vegetables. So you can either do like the wakame chips. If you want to be ambitious, you can even get any like dulse or anything and put them into smoothies. I do that as well. So that's an example of getting that sea vegetable in a snack that you can take. It also provides a great source of iodine. And okay, awesome. So I'm just going to copy these emails down and then I'll make sure to get those to you. And I'm going to let Jenna take the lead, and I'm going to unpin myself. Okay, and you guys are more than welcome to leave any more questions.
I just asked a question.
Oh, is it better to have flaxseed ground up or whole? It's always better to get it ground, but I don't like to grind it until after. I mean, I don't grind it until I buy it whole, if that makes sense. So I don't like to buy it pre-ground up because it can oxidize really quickly. So I like to get the whole form and grind it myself. Or if you want to get the ground form, to put it in your freezer. That's another option.
Also another question. I like to use chia seeds a lot, and I remember a nutritionist, I think she was a nutritionist, I'm not sure, but she was like, you should never eat chia seeds like not expanded, because when you eat them like that and they expand in your stomach. Is there like a myth on that? Like I'll put chia on my food and eat it, or I'll put it in like an overnight oats and it's, you know, or oats, I would put it in there. So I'm just curious, like, does that have an impact?
I don't think it expands your stomach where you're going to have to eat more. I haven't really done too much of the research on that, but I actually haven't learned that from my nutrition education. Chia seeds are really beneficial for, they're called like influencer. So they're going to be back again, like with the B vitamins, so they can be incorporated with that as well. So they're a great source of those. So the benefit, yeah, they help with that whole methylation cycle. So it's not just energy, but it also helps with detoxification, brain health, and so forth.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I'll just keep an eye on questions and I'll let you take the lead.
All right, some of you guys are dressed for stretching and some of you aren't. So feel free to just either, yeah, if you have to go, you can go. But yeah, I'm gonna take you guys through like 12-minute stretch. Or do we have people that are gonna do it, or am I doing this by myself?
I'll do it with you.
Oh, okay. All right, perfect. I just wrote all the routine down just because it makes it easier for the flow. Now, this stretch is just to generally move. So, like, if you're stuck at sitting all day or you've been binging Netflix all day, this would be a really great thing to do. It's 10 to 12 minutes long. It may be a little longer just because I'm, breaking it down. But you can make this a little bit more amped up. So I like to start off with just jogging in place, or you're just doing switch feet, which is a common warm-up I do. So if you were going to do a workout, you might want to do jump rope or something a little bit more higher intensity. And we're going to do about 30 seconds on every move. Keep it going. Okay, next thing we're going to do is elbow to knee. You're going to rotate your torso. And you're going to keep your hips square to straight ahead. So try not to rotate your knees and keep them forward, but you're rotating your upper body. Pros like looking at me like, what the hell am I doing? Working out again? Now, if you were to mod up here, you would go into high knees instead if you were going to do a workout. But I'm assuming that all you guys did your workout already. So we're just trying to move our body. It's really great to do at the end of the workday. 15 seconds. Good, in 10 seconds, we're gonna go into butt kickers, and that would be the mod up if you were going to work out, or you would do a side step with a bend. So this would be the side step and bend. This is if we're kind of like winding down, we just need to get the blood flowing through our body. And the reason why we do a dynamic stretch before doing any type of exercise is that you never really want to stretch on cold muscles. So if you wanted to mod up here, you would go into butt kickers like this. That's for a workout, or you would just get the blood flowing, get the body moving, so we start stretching, it won't feel too tight. 3, 2, 1, feet together. Okay, reach down, touch your toes, and hang here for a bit. Good, slowly roll up your spine. Hands go on your hips, right in the small of your back, and push forward. Lean back for a back bend. Good, and back down. Reach. Good, slowly roll up your spine, nice and slow. Hands go on your low back, push forward. And one more time, reach down, dive forward. Slight bend in those knees, not too much. You wanna make sure you feel that hamstring stretch. And last time, doing that back bend, slowly roll up your spine, hands on your hips, push on those hips, push back. Good, feet are shoulder width apart here. I want you to shift to the right, and you're just getting your inner thigh. And then go to the left. We're gonna go back and forth for 30 seconds. Maybe add sitting your hips back, and then going to the right, and then going to the left. And then sit the hips back. 3 more seconds. 2, 1, step a little wider. Deep stretch into the right side, or left side, doesn't really matter. We're gonna get both. So you should feel a stretch right in the inner part of the thigh. Weight is back, chest is up, you are hinged. Good, other side. So we do 15 seconds on each side. Now, if I were doing a warming up for a workout, I would go back and forth the whole time between them, but we are just trying to keep it chill. Good, we're going to go back to the right side, big reach over. You can even grab your hand and pull yourself over, or just lean on your forearm on your thigh. Good, other side, all the way down, stretching the inner thigh, reach over with your right hand. Open up a little here. Good, back to sumo stretch, so toes are pointed out, heels are in, forearms on the knees. Okay, 15 more seconds. Try sticking to that 30-second stretch on each. Good, we're gonna go into a runner stretch. We're gonna rotate to our right side. So right foot is pointed to the edge of the mat. You're gonna halfway tilt in your foot. You're gonna reach down to the outside of your heel. If you are too tight to reach and touch the floor, you could have yoga blocks here. But basically, like as if you're about to run a race. So you hinge at your hips are square to the front of the mat. Good, 5 more seconds here, and then we're gonna go into hip flexor stretch on the right side. 3, 2, hip flexor stretch. Your hands are on the inside of your right foot. You're dropping your hips down. You're gonna rotate in towards your right knee. Don't worry, we'll get the other side. So looking up at your hands, you're still rotating. 10 more seconds. In 5 seconds, we're gonna go into down dog. 3, 2, 1. Hands go back on the floor. Send your foot back. Hips go back. And then you're gonna take your left foot, bring it in between your left and right hand. Straighten out that leg for runner stretch. It's getting dark out here. So my hips are square to the floor. My leg is straight. The front leg is straight as it can physically be. Hands are out by the side. If this is too much, you want to have yoga blocks and be a little bit more upright. Good. From here, you're going to go into hip flexor stretch. So you're going to bring your hands on the inside of your left knee. Drop those hips and rotate in. Good. 5 more seconds here. 3, 2, 1. Left hand comes down. Left foot goes back to meet your right foot. Nice tall plank. Bring your right knee up towards your right wrist. You're gonna come down into pigeon. Good. So going a little deeper into pigeon, you're gonna actually put your hands on the mat. You're gonna press up, so you're upright. And I want you to lean over to the right side or the side that your legs bend. So my right knee is up near my wrist. I'm gonna lean a little bit to the right side with my hips to still keep myself upright. All right, from here, we're going to come out of pigeon back to tall plank. Let your left leg come up to left wrist, drop down all the way, forearms on the floor if you can. And I like to stay here for like 15, 20 seconds, then I'll go and finish out with the tall pigeon or whatever you want to call it. I'm not a yoga instructor, but I know my stretches. All right, in 5 seconds, we're gonna go into the tall stance with the pigeon. So hands down on the mat and come all the way up. Lean over a little bit to the side that your leg is bent. You should feel a really nice stretch in that glute that we especially worked today. Good, let's go into tall plank. Send those hips back to down dog. Okay, heels are going right to the floor if you can, so we're stretching out the calf. Good, from here we'll go to tall plank, and then your knees are gonna go outside of where the mat would be. So right inside where the mat would be. Then you're gonna send those hips back into child's pose. Walk your hands to the edge of the mat. Head comes down towards the ground. Take a few big breaths here. So big breath in through your nose and out the mouth. And if you're breathing slow enough and really focusing on the breath, you have 10 more seconds. You should be able to have 1, 2, or 3 more breaths in that 10 seconds. Good, right hand weaves through the left side. So you're peeking through your left armpit area, really stretching out that back and your torso. Good, right hand goes back to center, left hand weaves through, peeking through your right arm area. Should feel a pretty good stretch in your rhomboid, so like where your scapula is, the mid back. Five more seconds. We're gonna come on to tabletop. 3, 2, 1. Come back to center. Come into all fours. You can take a big breath in. Belly goes to the floor. Arch your back. Good. And then exhale, spine to the ceiling. Big breath in, belly to the floor. Exhale, spine to the ceiling. You have 15 more seconds, so at your own pace, keep on breathing in, belly to the floor. And exhale, spine to the ceiling. One more time, big breath in. Exhale, spine to the ceiling. Good, flatten out to flat tabletop. Right hand's gonna come behind your, or left hand to your, behind your head. You're gonna bring your elbow down to meet your opposite wrist and then back up, rotate. This is a really good golfer stretch, or anyone that's active in rotation. We're doing, it's called the thoracic spine stretch. So you're just gonna go back and forth for 15 more seconds. Elbow comes down to your wrist. You rotate a little bit, then you come up and you try to see how high you can get it without rotating those hips. So elbow comes up, back down. 3, 2, 1. Other side. Left hand goes down, right hand goes behind the head. Right elbow goes down to meet the left wrist. Then you rotate away. And then back down again. Twenty more seconds here. Five, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Right hand goes back down to the floor. You're in a tall plank. Okay, from here, you guys are gonna walk in towards your feet, but keep those legs straight as you can. So hands are walking in towards your feet. Heels are on the floor. If your knees need to bend, they can. You hang here for a sec. Feet are shoulder width apart. Good, slowly roll up your spine. Imagine your head being the heaviest weight here. And you are very, very slow rolling up your spine. Last one up. If I could give you $1 million, I would, but I can't. So that's how slow I want you to go, as if you were having $1 million handed to you. When you get to your neck, big breath in, hands come up, reach, back bend, and exhale, hands come down. All right, there is my stretch. I'm not sure how long it took, but I'm sure it took a little over 12. But hopefully you feel a little nice joint release. Thank you guys so much for coming.
I have some
Yep.
some questions. um, what are some stretches that you can incorporate during work? Like some simple ones. Would you include some of those stretches or?
Yeah, so obviously getting down on the floor probably would not, but I have a chair here so I can show you some things. It's a good question. So the hip flexors get really tight, especially for people that cross their legs. So if you're someone that crosses your legs, or if you're wearing heels all day, those things can actually impact our joints more than we know. So a good stretch that I like to do is you do the figure 4 like this, and you just want to make sure you have a 90 degrees with the leg that's on the floor. I don't know if you guys can see, and trying to keep this as flat as possible. So if you feel that you're constantly like this means you're way too tight in your hips. So over time and doing dynamic movement and stretching, foam rolling is really important. You want to just ensure that you can keep your shin parallel to the floor. And of course you can extend it a little bit more, but obviously you want to do it with your, pain tolerance. You don't want to push it. So this is one I like to do, so you can do both sides. Obviously getting up out of if you were at the desk, for getting up out of your chair, just reaching down for your toes or putting your foot up on a chair and hinging, that's a good one. Making sure you reach opposite hand to foot so it keeps your hips square so you're not like turned out this way. This is a really good one, reaching in that way. And then just I don't know how many people here actually work at a desk. So a few things you want to keep in mind is like a lot of people have been transitioning to standing desks, and I think that's great, but then I'm like, you're standing all day, that's not good for your legs either. Like visceral veins is a real thing. Like my mom's a nurse, she's always standing and her legs are like swarmed with all these veins, and she has to wear compression socks, right? So standing desk is not always the best thing either. Stability ball, people switch to stability ball, sitting at the desk. The thing with that is if your hips go lower, so sometimes stability balls, if they're too small, your knees are higher than your hips, and that actually puts you in a more flexed position. So that's actually worse for you. You want to have when you're sitting in a chair, you want it to be so that your knees are right in line with your hips, if not a little bit higher, not lower than where your knees would be. And then for promoting good posture, having your screen elevated so you're not hunched over looking at your screen on the desk, or if you can raise your desk, that's even better. But if you can raise your screen so that when you are at your tallest spine, you want to be able to keep that in check throughout the time of working. Before we opened up a gym in Boston, they had me work for 3 weeks at a desk. And I had aches and pains forever, for the longest time. I was like, how do people do this? How do they work on a desk? But yeah, just having like a taller screen, a little bit higher, elevated from the floor. I don't know the exact measurements. Everyone's different here. We may have longer necks or torsos or whatever. But you want to be able to be upright, and that's where your screen should be, eye level. The pads that go underneath the keyboard, not the keyboard, but in front of the keyboard for your wrist, that's really good for support, because you don't want to be like this and your keyboard's a little higher and you don't want your forearm to be flat with the desk. You want to actually be a little elevated so it keeps your wrist straight so we don't have any like those crinks. I'm waiting for something to come out about what we can do with our hands, because I think we've been texting a lot lately, and I think that's going to cause a lot of like arthritis and issues with people's fingers and hands. I don't know about you guys, but I feel aches and pains here. I don't have a real stretch. I crack my joints, my knuckles, and my fiance yells at me all the time for it, so it's not advised to do that. But that's a good question, Bronte. So those are a couple stretches, making sure you're just stretching the hips, hamstrings. You could do the quads like that. I mean, of course, if you're wearing heels, you're going to take those off. Anyone else have questions about stretching? The differences? Try to talk about that a little bit. Or something you've heard if you're a runner, like You should always stretch before you go running, before you do strength training. It's always good to move. Never just go into a chest press or a push up. You want to actually warm up the body a little bit. So like simple things like jumping jacks, seal jacks, shoulder tap, plank shoulder taps, those are great because it activates the core and gets your body, the blood flowing before you, stretch.
I guess the last one would be for people with their shoulders, since they are hunched over, like probably some shoulder openings. Do you have any like recommended ones that are your favorite for shoulder openings?
Yeah, so we've been using towels. You hold a long towel, like obviously a bath towel is fine. That's kind of big and aggressive. Maybe a kitchen towel, really long one, and you bring it. Yeah, Liz got it. She has. Is that a towel? And you just have it, and you can go to your chest and back. You can also go forward and back. They're called shoulder dislocations. But you grab this towel and you go all the way back and forward. And everyone has their own abilities, but that's a really good way to open up the chest and open up the shoulder and the back. If you are someone that struggles with bad posture, even sometimes people with scoliosis, that's something that people are born with, but you can't reverse things like that, but you can you can live with it, right? You just have to work the muscles that impact the way your spine is. So when I have a lot of clients that are hunched over because they, are at a desk all day, we do a lot of mid-back exercises, reverse flies, rows, lat pull downs to really get their back strong so that pulls their their shoulders back. And then we do a lot of stretches for your chest, which is really important. So this has to be loose, and because we're kind of like a vain society and we're always working out what we see in the mirror, we're working our chest, we're working our biceps, that this gets tight. My fiance is super hunched over. He only works his chest. And then ever since I met him, he has a way better posture. Still, posture sucks, but it's a lot better because he works his back more. He loves pullovers. Those are great. So, yeah, just making sure that you're working your back to help with that posture is good. And core exercises, of course, would be great.